Hi students, welcome to the BYJU'S Hindu News Analysis for 30th of November 2018. So let's get started. So let's look into the first article. So the first article says Imran looks for fresh start. So what is this article all about? So Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan has sought an acknowledgement from India to revive talks at the bilateral level, which has found a deadlock due to Pakistan's sympathetic and supportive attitude towards terrorism. And this was happening in the backdrop of his conversation with the Indian journalists who are present to cover the Kakrapar ceremony. So as the Indian journalists were in conversation with Imran Khan, they questioned him about the pending investigations, and that was in reference to the 1993 bomb blast, in reference to the 2008 Mumbai attacks, and the case against Dawood Ibrahim as well as the Lashkar-e-Toiba. To these questions that were put across and bombarded to Imran Khan says that he cannot be held responsible for all those events that has been happened in the past, but what he acknowledges is the fact that he would want to be responsible for all those events that will happen under his administration in the future. So what Imran Khan says in this case is that he is ready to acknowledge the fact that India and Pakistan have number of bilateral issues, and he is also ready to address all these issues, and he happens to promise that this will be an acknowledgement of the fact that we can improve our relationship in the future. So even as he speaks to the journalists, what Prime Minister Imran Khan speaks about is the four-step formula. So what is this four-step formula? So this four-step formula is one of the resolution protocols that was devised during the 10 years of President Musharraf as well as the Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. So the four-step formula basically has demilitarization or the phased withdrawal of the troops. So what is this demilitarization basically speaking about? What it basically goes on to say is eventually and over a period of time you will have less and less number of soldiers gradually reducing, and then you will have less number of soldiers across the border with phased withdrawal of borders in the Kashmir region. But what we have to understand in this case is that this could be an invitation to the disaster. Why? Because there could be infiltration of large number of people in this region, which can lead to instability, chaos, bloodbath of both the soldiers as well as the civilians. And the second important point it makes is that there will be no change of borders of Kashmir. However, people of Jammu and Kashmir will be allowed to move freely across the line of control. When we say that there will be no change, what it means is that India has always said that Jammu and Kashmir, including that of the Pakistan occupied Kashmir, is an integral part of India. And when we say that there will be no change of borders of Kashmir, what it means is that indirectly India is accepting for the fact that Pakistan occupied Kashmir is integral to Pakistan, which India does not buy the argument any time. So what this indirectly means is that Pakistan occupied Kashmir will be part of Pakistan, and currently whatever is held by India will be part of India. So this is against the India's value system of accepting Jammu and Kashmir as an integral part of India. So again, this is out because India has always said that Jammu and Kashmir, including that of Ladakh, including that of Pakistan occupied Kashmir, will always be a part of India. And third important point about the four-step formula is it speaks about self-governance without independence. So what does this self-government basically means? It means that Pakistan will be able to take a stand and it will have certain representatives it selects, but the major problem that this self-governance will have is that it will not picture in the representatives, the people's will in that particular region. So Kashmiri representation is not taken into picture. There are no dialogue process, there is no negotiation, there is no arbitration and due deliberation in this particular process. So self-governance, which it is promoting, is a unilateral step that will have an imprint of what that country wants, but it will not have the voice of the people. So self-governance without independence is again a flawed argument as proposed by President Musharraf. And at the same time, a joint supervision mechanism in Jammu and Kashmir involving India, Pakistan and Kashmir. So this was also previously supported in the Simla agreement as well as in the Lahore agreement, where they have previously said that any territorial or integrity to do with which Kashmir will be dealt bilaterally. So any negotiations, there will not be a third power, there will not be any interventions, but instead what you will have is India and Pakistan speaking together, speaking out bilaterally and negotiating amongst themselves, so that any issue that is present will be sorted out amongst themselves. So the fourth point speaks about it. So Imran Khan makes a vague reference to this 4-point formula and he wants it to be pushed across. And what we have currently discussed is that this demilitarization or no change of borders or self-governance that Pakistan has promoted in the 4-step formula, which was espoused by Musharraf, is not in good terms with India, because this is an acknowledgement of the fact that Pakistan occupied Kashmir will be permanently taken over by Pakistan, which India has opposed time and again. Another important point that was also spoken during this particular session with the journalists is in promotion of the religious tourism. This religious tourism is also called as pilgrimage tourism, or you can also call it as dargah diplomacy. So what this basically means is they'll be increasing the number of steps that India and Pakistan will have, the confidence building measures, and one such move is in the form of the Sharda Pita, which is there in the Pakistan occupied Kashmir, and the other one is the Katsraj temple. So you can always have a prospective question that will ask you, where is this Katsraj temple? And that is in Sindh, in the Pakistan region. So this is what we need to understand in reference to this article. So moving on, let's look into the next article. So the next article that we are speaking about is the HISIS. So what is this HISIS? It basically means the hyperspectral imaging satellite system. So the entire analysis of what this is already explained in your CNA day before yesterday. What we will be looking into is certain facts which can be a prospective and a likely question in your prelims examination. So the first important point that we have to understand here is the carrier for this particular satellite is the PSLV C-43, which is one of the powerhouses that the ISRO has. So the launch vehicle that is used here is the PSLV. And the next important point that we have to understand is it is called as the sharp eye within this particular system. Why is it called as sharp eye? It is because it is India's Earth's observation satellite, and it will be performing actions which are very important for India. And what are these actions or the purposes that it has? Basically, it will involve itself in the agriculture process, forestry, soil survey, geology, coastal zone studies, inland water studies, environmental monitoring, as well as pollution detection from the industries. So because of all these purposes that is able to espouse and support, that is why it is called as the sharp eye. And the most important fact that we also have to consider is, along with the installation of this satellite, what India also supported was 30 other satellites were dropped into designated orbit one after the other by the HISIS. So this 30 satellites involved about 23 satellites from the United States of America, and you also had single satellites from Australia, Canada, Colombia, Finland, Malaysia, Netherlands, as well as from Spain. So for the rest of the analysis, what you have to do is just look into the day before yesterday's CNA. But for this, all we have to understand is what is the purpose. And why is the purpose important? Because previously we have seen in the UPSC question that they have asked one of the question which says, in which of the following activities are Indian remote sensing satellite used? So is the purpose that we just discussed with respect to the HISIS. So this question says assessment of the crop productivity, location groundwater resources, mineral exploration, telecommunications, as well as the traffic studies. So the correct answer for this is 1, 2 and 3 only. So because previously UPSC has asked questions like this, that's why the purpose of this satellite becomes very important prospective for your prelims examination. So moving on, let's look into the next article. So the next article says report cards rankle teachers in Karnataka. So what is this article all about? In what could be one of the major development, disruptions or transformation in the education sector, the Karnataka government is planning to initiate a move that would rate all the teachers on the basis of grading system, so that this could ultimately improve their performance. And all this is being done by the Department of Primary and Secondary Education, which has already prepared personalized report cards for teachers in government and aided schools based on the secondary school leaving certificate results. So what is the criteria that this particular department is using. So what they basically have is, they are basically looking into what are the subjects that have been taught by a particular teacher, and once he's done with it, what is the results that is expected from this particular subject, how exactly have the students fared in this particular subject. So the subject taught and how the students have fared will be the first criteria. So once that is done, they'll be rated on a scale of about 0 to 10. So 0 will have the least marks and 10 will have the highest marks. So when you say that these people would have a rating of about 10, it means that they have done their job very well, and it means they'll have a very good grading system. And this grading will have 4 important parameters, which will involve very good, good, average, or below average. And when there is below average, average, it means that the teacher is not able to explain the concepts in an intended way, the students are not receptive of the knowledge, and it means they'll have to fine tune the way they deliver their subjects, and also it means that the performance will have to be improved. So this evaluation will take into account the number of students at the teacher taught, the academic year, the pass percentage, and the average marks of the class. So this will be the basic criteria as to how these teachers will be based on their performance. What is the significance of this? Now that this particular move is taken, this can also be used as a template for other states as well. So what is the significance of this? Let's take for example, recently you would have seen one of the viral videos that has been spread across WhatsApp or in Facebook. There is one of the teachers, and this teacher is teaching the students about the spelling and the pronunciation of nature as well as future. Instead of this, what she says is that it is nature and fature. So is this the right way that we teach the future students who are aspiring to be the technocrats, the leaders of this nation? Not exactly right. So in order to overcome this complacent character, this complacent attitude, what you need is performance testing, and that is why this becomes a very important move. So what is happening in this case is, there are certain feedback patterns. So due to these feedback patterns, the complacent nature will require certain changes, and teachers will have to fine tune the way of delivery. And the second important point is, now that the complacent nature is actually fine tuned, this will ultimately deliver the performance parameter. So the most important parameter is, this will improve the performance of the teachers. And what will this help in? This will help the educational performance. So ultimately what will happen in this case is, certain feedback is also taken from the students. There are few good students, these people would know how the students are able to get and grasp it. So a feedback would be taken from these students, and the same feedback would be given to the teachers, so that they are able to promise the students of further fine tuning and better performance. So this is one of the important things when it comes to your education. You can use it as an example when it comes to your education in the GS paper 2 as well as in your essays. So this is what we need to understand in reference to this article. So moving on, let's look into the next article. So the next article that we are speaking about is in reference to the Kumbhamela. So this can be a very important likely question in your prelims examination. So we will have to know certain facts with respect to this examination. So this is a Hindu festival, and this is held in Haridwar, Allahabad, Prayagraj, Ujjain as well as in Nasik. So this Kumbhamela is held once in 12 years in that particular place. So there is a rotation that happens between 4 regions, that is in Haridwar, Allahabad, Ujjain as well as Nasik. So Kumbhamela is held every 3rd year at one of the 4 places by rotation, and this has been listed as the Intangible Cultural Heritage under UNESCO in the year 2017. And how does the government decide? For which what we have is, the Ministry of Culture has appointed Sangeet Natak Academy, an autonomous organization under the Ministry of Culture, as nodal office for matters relating to intangible cultural heritage, including for the preparation of the nomination dossiers for the representative list of UNESCO. So what basically the Sangeet Natak Academy does is, it makes all the necessary changes, it interacts with the people, it goes about speaking to number of stakeholders, and ultimately it will speak to few experts as well as officials individuals in that particular stream take their information and speak amongst themselves and finally produce it to the UNESCO, which will ultimately declare which is that intangible cultural heritage. A total of 13 intangible cultural heritage elements from India have been inscribed on the UNESCO's representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity. And when the minute it is pictured in, what will happen is the Ministry of Culture enters into and it recognizes certain schemes and it appoints certain organizations, and all that these organizations and people do is they preserve these type of cultural heritage, protect them, and further promote these particular type of cultural heritages. So what are the 13 intangible cultural heritage elements? That are the tradition of Vedic chanting, which we got in 2008. So kindly remember all this. This can be asked in your prelims examination. So you have Ram Leela, the traditional performance of Ramayana in 2008, Kutiyattam, Raman, Mudiyattu, Kalbelia, Chau dance, the Buddhist chanting of Ladakh, which is the recitation of sacred Buddhist texts in Trans-Himalayan Ladakh region, Jammu and Kashmir. And then you have Sankirtana, which is a ritual singing, drumming and dancing of Manipur. Then the traditional brass and the copper craft of utensil making, that is called as the Tateras, and these Tateras belong to the region of Punjab. And then you also have yoga, which was given in the year 2016. Then we have Navroz, which has various names, which was given in the year 2016. And then what we have is the Kumbhamela, which was given in 2017. So we have 13 cultural heritage, and this can be a prospective question in your prelims examination. So please pay heed to all these important cultural heritage that we have. So let's look into the prelims practice questions now. So the Ketch rate recently seen in news connects the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov. Why is it in news? It is because of the Russia as well as the Ukraine crisis. So this is the map with respect to the Kerch Strait that we are speaking about, which connects the Sea Azov as well as the Black Sea. So moving on, let's look into the next question. It says, which state recently launched star rating system to the rate industries based on the amount of pollutant generated by them? It is Odisha. So it's a straightforward question, so you will have to know this fact because previously UPSC has asked facts like these. So moving on, let's look into the model answer. So it says, as much as cement industry is polluting, it has played its part in the sustainable development. Critically analyze. So let's look into what are the compartments that we need to have in reference to this particular question. So the first point that we have to make is in reference to the statistics. So India is the second largest producer of the cement in the world after China. The housing and the real estate sector is the biggest demand driver of the cement, accounting for about 65% of the total consumption in India. The other major consumers of cement include public infrastructure at 20% and other industrial development at 15%. And the next construction that we have to have is the location factors. It says manufacturing of cement industries require heavy, low value and weight losing materials and is primarily a raw material oriented industry. So limestone is the main raw material and comprises 60 to 65% of the total product. On an average, 1.5 times of limestone are required to produce 1 ton of cement. Hence, the location of a cement plant is based on the limestone deposits. The other raw materials that are used are seashells, slag from the steel plants, slag from the fertilizer plants, as well as these raw materials influence the location of cement industry in their own way. So the cement industry are major source of pollution in the country. The cement industries have been categorized as highly polluting industries by the Central Pollution Control Board. So what are the pollutants emitted? It includes the particulate matter, the carbon monoxide, the sulfur dioxide, as well as the nitrous dioxide. So it also speaks about the sustainable developmental part. So how is cement industry able to add its part when it comes to the sustainable development? For which what we have to understand is, as India's thermal power plants mushroomed, fly ash from the burning of coal in these power plants kept growing and their disposal became an increasing problem. Thermal power plants and the cement industry made mutually satisfactory arrangements for the cement plants nearby to take fly ash and use it as a raw material for this making cement. So what we have to understand in this particular concept is that there is a concept in economy which is called as the circular economy. So what is this circular economy? So basically what it means is that you have a waste or a byproduct from one economic activity which can act as an input for the other economic activity. So this fly ash is a byproduct of the thermal power plant, but this is used as an input in the cement industry, so that is why it is called as the circular economy. So this is important for you to know from the understanding perspective. So this fly ash that is used as a byproduct from the thermal power plant is used as input in making the cement, so that is how it is able to reduce the impact of the thermal power plant. So thermal power plants had savings in the disposal cost of fly ash, especially in terms of the land acquired for it. This arrangement was a win-win for both the situations. Within 20 years of start of the process, as much as 25% of total fly ash being generated in the country is now being used by the cement industry. Used tires, rubber pieces, segregated municipal and industrial waste with enough calorific value could also be used. The need for additional space in landfill sites could be further reduced, and that is how it is able to play its part in the sustainable development. So what is the next course of action? So the government, in order to reduce the pollution that is emanating from cement, already has certain rules. That is, the CBCB conducts surprise inspection of cement industries under its environmental surveillance squad program to access the compliance status with respect to prescribed emission effluent norms. Directions under section 5 of the Environmental Act of 1986 are issued to non-compliance industries, and under section 18(1) of B of the 1974 and the Air Prevention and Control Pollution Act of 1981 to the State Pollution Control Board to direct industries to comply with the stipulated norms. So what could be the conclusion? So with government regulations already in place that we have just discussed, if the companies are further able to meet the international standards of reducing emissions in terms of mercury, nitrogen oxides and sulfur oxides, it would give real meaning to its contribution of mitigating climate change impact. So this is what we need to write for this particular answer. So if you have liked our initiative, please do like our videos. So this is it for today. Thank you so much. All the best.